What's up? It's Jake, and we're gonna do a little practice. So now that we're getting ready to start chapter 3, I figured the best thing to do is to try to solve a problem with the things that we've used so far. So here's what we want to do. Um, Create a file wherever on your computer called, I'm just calling it character input, but you can call it whatever you want. Um, and make sure it ends in .py, and it should have some kind of funny icon or whatever to let you know that it's a Python file. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a program that asks a user to enter their name and age. Okay, that's it for now. So notice I'm using the # here to create a comment to tell people what this program is for, and we're actually going to write a program. So at the most basic fundamental level of this, we need to ask a user for data, and you do that using the input function. And so you can just say input, and then in quotes to make a string, say enter your name, colon, and then with a little space after it. That way it looks good. And you'll see what this does in a second. And then right under that, I'm going to say input, enter your age, just like that. Now, in order to run this, in your terminal in VS Code, which you should be using, make sure you're in the same directory. So if you do an ls, there's a file name that matches the file that you created. And all you need to do is type Python and then the name of the file. Now, how I did that fast was mine starts with the number 1, so I just typed a 1 and I hit tab, and tab completes the rest of the name. And if I do this, it's not gonna read this line. It's gonna go here, and Python's gonna say, I need user input, and I'm gonna prompt that person with this string. And then you're gonna enter whatever, and it's gonna save it in its memory, and then it's going to do the same thing for age, and it's the same this in its memory, and then it's going to finish, and that's all it does. So enter your name. So you see how you're prompted here, and there's a space. That's why I put the space here, so everything's not close together. So I'm just going to put Jake, enter your age, 39, and then the program is finished. So we completed this portion. So if you need to get input from somebody, you use the input function. So there you go. So the next thing we're going to do is we need to print out a message addressed to them that tells them the year that they will turn 100 years old. Oops, years old. Okay, so that's the next thing we're going to do. So now I need to make some kind of message with both of these things. And at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this inside of a class. And I'm going to do that by just typing class and then name the class. And since this person's 100, I'm going to call it Geezer and follow that with a colon. Now that you did that, these things need to be indented like such. Okay. So now I have a class, and all it does is take input for a name and input for an age. And then in order for it to actually run, you actually have to call that class. So watch what happens if I save and I run this again. It'll say enter your name, Jake, enter your age, 39. It doesn't really do anything, right? So if I want to actually put something in there, I can call this class with Geezer, and we'll end up using it. So now we need to start doing some sort of math to take their age plus and what some number to figure out when they're going to be 100. So the easiest, well, not the easiest, the way that we're going to do this is using our date time library that we learned about. So I'm going to import specifically the date from date time. And I'm going to say from date time, import date. Okay. So date time is very big. I don't need the whole thing. I just need date. So you do this, then it'll be smaller. Now, instead of just saying input, if I want to use this for something, I need to store it, and not in memory. I need to store it in a way I can reuse it for my code. So I need to create a variable, and I'm going to do that by creating this called name, and I'll make one for age. Okay, so now I have a name and an age, and it doesn't do anything, right? It doesn't do anything after that. So we definitely need to print something, right? So we could try printing name, comma, age. And it would say Jake 39, and then it prints Jake 39. And that's exactly what I expected it to do. So now we need to figure out, okay, we need to make this into some sort of message, right? So instead of saying print name, age, I'm going to print some sort of response, like a message, right? And my response is going to be F. Remember we did this before? And then inside that string, I'm going to say hello, and then in curly brackets, name, whoever you are, period. You will turn 100 years old in the year, and then dot dot dot, because I don't know what the year is, right? I don't know what that is. So now if I say, okay, I have a name, I have an age, now I have a name. I'm not using age here, so this is an unused variable for now. So say Jake, and I am 39. Hello, Jake. You will turn 100 years old in the year whatever. Correct the typo. Okay, so this is getting better already, right? This is getting better. But we need to figure out how to get to the 100. So I'm going to do something very simple, and then I'm going to let you try to figure out how to make it more accurate. So I need to figure out, okay, well, how old are they today? And then I can take their age and subtract it from the year of today, and then add 100 to it. I think that's what I'd like to do. Okay, so I'm going to say, okay, so today equals date dot today, because I know that I can take today from the date. And that'll set my, like if I just printed today, for example, what you'll get is something like this. So Jake 39. So you're going to get like this date, right? So I don't want to print that date. I just want to know that, okay, I have a year. So I have today now stored in a variable. So now to get the year that they're going to turn 100, I would say, okay, today.year, which would be 2022, minus their age. All right, so 2022 minus 39 years old. Okay, plus 100 would be 100 years from the year they were born. And then for the year, I can just say in the year, period, something like that. Now, if I run the script, Jake 39, I get an error. Now, what is this error? Okay, well, it's taking the age and subtracting it from today and adding 100. And if we look here, it says type error, unsupported operand types for int and string. And there's a subtraction. It says for subtraction. And well, the only place I have subtraction is here, which means that maybe this isn't correct. And the reason for that is when you take input, it's automatically this function's default type is a string. So you need to convert this, assuming it's a number, to an integer. And all you have to do is wrap it with int. So I said int, and then I put a parenthesis at the beginning and then a parenthesis at the end. Now it's going to take this number, and instead of it being a number that's a string, it's going to be a number that's an integer. And now I can go integer minus integer plus integer, and then you won't get a type error. So that is how you encapsulate input into an integer object. So now if I try it again, Jake, 39. Hello, Jake. You will turn 100 years old in the year 2083. Okay, cool. So this is working. This is working. Um, maybe we want to add one more requirement as a little bonus, and I'm going to say ask the user for another number and print out that many copies of the response. Okay, so I would need to get another thing in here. I'll just say it's called num. And I'm going to say, okay, it's an integer because we need a number. And then inside that, I'm going to say I need some input from the person. And then I'm going to create a string that says enter a number, like that. Okay, so now they put in their name, their age, and number, and then it says today, I set the year, I do some simple math, and I respond with when they'll turn 100, but I don't want to print the response. I want to print the response this many times. Okay, so how do you do that? Well, you would just say print the response times, and if you remember how strings work, when we studied it, if you multiply them, it just does them like multiple times, right? So I would just say the response times number is what I want you to print, and you're going to get a very strange outcome here. Watch. So we say, oops, cancel that. All right, there we go. Jake, 39. We'll enter the number 4. Whoa, that's not really what I want, right? So let's add a final requirement that says print on separate lines. Okay, and all you have to do is a little carriage return /n. And now, Jake 39 4, it prints on separate lines. So there's a little problem. You get to solve it, and there is an issue with this. And I want to see if you can figure it out. You don't have to do this, but if you want a challenge and you're getting into it, this is assuming the input is an integer, which we said, right? And there's no like error handling, like, oh, if they put in something that's not a number, then tell them that's not a number. Like, we didn't do anything like that yet because we're going to go over conditionals in the next section. But here's where the problem is. My birthday is in April, so I was born in 1982, so I would actually turn 100, not in 2083, but in 2082. So now you have to use a little bit more than the year. So this is not accounting, man, I really can't type, accounting for the actual birthday. So you need to do, and you'll probably be able to solve this problem if you don't know how to do it now after the next section when I go over conditionals using like if and else statements. But you would have to say, okay, if today month date is less than their birthday, then subtract 1 from the year. If it's not, print the year. That way, if I haven't turned 40 yet this year, then it will take off a year from this total and make it 2082. And if the date today is less than my birthday, because I haven't had a birthday yet, then it will be 22. But if it goes the other way around, then it will be 2083 because I would have already turned 40. So for example, if we created this script, or even if we ran this script in June, this number would change. Even if we didn't change anything else in this script right now, if we just saved this, walked away, made some potatoes because it's St. Patrick's Day, and then came back in June and ran the same exact script without changing anything, this would print out the number 2082 because it would assume that, if it was using my birthday, right, because it would assume that I was 40, because when I ran this script and I entered my age, I would type 40. And if I did that in June, this is how I would answer that question. This would be correct. So we want to make it correct no matter what. Now, that is going to be the center of the conversation for my next section. So if you'd like to know how to get a little bit more complicated with your code and learn how to do if else, if then, if else kind of ideas, which is really the foundation of a lot of programming stuff, then the next section will be right up your alley. And I encourage you to go check it out. Have fun and see if you can figure it out after watching this and just ignore my code. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.